दिया पद छाया शोध हे माया तुम्हारा चरण धोरी छाया बेगदो में छाया दोषा शोधी छाया गुण के खुदा से छाया बेगदो में छाया दोषा शोधी छाया गुण देहो दासे छाया सत्संगा देहो हे आमारे বসিছে সঙ্গের আসে ছায়া সৎসঙ্গা দেহ হে আমারে বসেছে সঙ্গের আসে একাকী আমার নাহি পায়া বল হরিনাম সংকীর্তনে একাকী আমার নাহি পায়া বল হরিনাম সংকীর্তনে তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধাবিন্দু দিয়া কেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম ধানে তুমি কৃপা করি শ্রদ্ধাবিন্দু দিয়া দেহ কৃষ্ণ নাম ধানে কৃষ্ণ সে তোমার কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো তোমার শক্তি আছে কৃষ্ণ সে তোমারা কৃষ্ণ দিতে পারো তোমার শক্তি আছে আমি তো কঙ্গাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলে ধাই তব পাছে পাছে আমি তো কঙ্গাল কৃষ্ণ কৃষ্ণ বলে ধাই তব পাছে পাছে ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করে ওহে বৈষ্ণব ঠাকুর দয়ার সাগর এ দাসে করুণা করে দিয়া পদ ছায়া শোধ হে মায়া তোমার চরণ ধরি দিয়া পদ ছায়া শোধ হে মায়া তোমার চরণ ধরি হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে হরে জয় প্রভুপাদা শ্রীলা প্রভুপাদা জয় জয় প্রভুপাদ জয় জয় প্রভুপাদ নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল নিতাই গৌরা হরি বল Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Vaishnav Thakur ki jai, Anant Gauri Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Today is a very auspicious day. It's the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada. So we will do the verse as we always do, and we will also connect that with Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. 2, 9, and 9. This is today's verse. Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita. Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita. Sandarshayama Saparam Nayat Param. Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam. Swadrishtavadbhir Purushair Abhishtutam. Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita. Sandarshayama Saparam Nayat Param. Vyapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadvasam. Sadrishtavadbhir Purushair Abhishtutam. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet over all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adorned by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Once again, the personality of God, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adorned by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Translation by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Purport: the troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in the line of devotional service, bhakti. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Svalokam, the Lord's personal abodes, would become visible to Brahmaji. The personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mystical nor material, as conceived by the impersonalists. But realization of the transcendental abodes of the Lord is possible only through devotional service, and thus the devotees enter into such abodes. There's undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted by executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance in other processes of self-realization, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. There is no profit in beating husks without grains. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances other than bhakti yoga for self-realization. Executing bhakti yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. For Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahmaji was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Krama Sandarbha annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites quotations from the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, Vedic evidence. It is said that Yajnavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka. This abode of the Lord, although described in revealed scriptures, like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Herein the word Swadrishtavadbhir is very significant. One who has actually realized his self-desires. one who has actually realized his self desires the transcendental form of oneself. Impersonal realization of self and the Supreme is not complete, because it is just an opposite conception of material personalities. The personality of Godhead and the personalities of devotees of the Lord are all transcendental. They do not have material bodies. The material body is overcast with 5 kinds of miserable conditions, namely ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. As long as one is overwhelmed by these 5 kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into the Vaikuntha Lokas. What are these 5 miseries again? Ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. The impersonal conception of oneself is just the negation of material personality and is far from the positive existence of personal form. The personal forms of the transcendental abode will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the highest planet of the Vaikuntha Loka as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a cowherd boy, keeping transcendental Surabhi cows and surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhira vipalayantam Lakshmi sahasra shata sambhrama sevyamanam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Yad gatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama, is also confirmed herewith. Param means transcendental Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and his abode is also known as Vaikuntha. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and sense. Om Jnanam Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitansha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adorned by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. So today is the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, and it's a very, very special day. A devotee never dies, a devotee only disappears. So whatever happens with a devotee is always auspicious. And but it's a day of great, you could say, it's a day to remember and glorify the great activities of one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada. And I was thinking that this verse is actually very wonderful and very nicely connects with Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, because one can very nicely compare Srila Prabhupada and Lord Brahma, and the role of Srila Prabhupada and the glory of Srila Prabhupada to Lord Brahma, who is also the beginning of our entire sampradaya, the origin of our sampradaya. Lord Krishna tells Uddhava in his final parting words to Uddhava, Lord Krishna says that the great devotees of the Lord are not even a little different from myself. He says the great devotees of the Lord are just like me, not even a little different than me. Because the great devotees of the Lord, they sort of inherit the qualities of the Lord. They inherit the power of the Lord. And these great devotees are not just great devotees, but they're specially empowered by the Lord to represent him, to act in the same capacity as the Lord acts when he appears in this abode, in this world. So what Lord Brahma is teaching us is the same as what Srila Prabhupada taught us. That how through the austerity of devotional service, here the word that is used is right here. Sabhajita, being pleased by the penance of Brahma. So by the penance of devotional service, the Lord is so pleased that the Lord manifests his spiritual abode of Vaikuntha, the supreme planet, to the entire world. The Lord becomes so pleased by the penance of his devotee that he manifests his Vaikuntha planet to that devotee and to anyone who follows that devotee. And I was just thinking on this, that how Srila Prabhupada went through so much penance. He went through so much difficulties, so much austerities just to give us Krishna consciousness. At the age of 70, a 70-year-old man, they need so much care at that age. There's, every part of the body is failing. But Prabhupada alone, fearlessly, and it only, one has to be 70 years old to understand how fearless a person has to be in order to do this, which I don't have any realization of, but I've heard from senior devotees, Prabhupada's disciples who are now 70 years old, them saying that now that they're 70, they begin to understand Srila Prabhupada's fearlessness and his sacrifice and his austerity. That at that age, he left his known, you could say, terrain, which was Vrindavan Dham, which was the land of India, and he got on a ship, and he came to America, and on the way he had 2 heart attacks. Then we often quote that, but then after that, every single day, Prabhupada was working so hard. He was working so hard that one disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned how Prabhupada was literally killing himself. It's a very kind of crude way to put it, but that's the only way he could understand how to put it. The amount of exertion that he was pushing himself through just to establish this movement was, like what people do when they are, in a boot camp or they are doing a, you could say, one of those Iron Man competitions. Like he was on a marathon. He didn't let a moment pass without working for Krishna. And therefore, Prabhupada very often said that although devotional service is a matter of the heart, although devotional service is a matter of our intention, our feelings for Krishna, but devotional service to Krishna is manifest, or devotional service takes place by austerities. One has to perform austerities for the Lord. Otherwise, that devotional service will never become manifest. Because that austerity pleases the Lord. And that's the key point, that Krishna is pleased by the penance of Lord Brahma, Sabhajita, being pleased by the penance of Lord Brahma. Because that austerity is the exhibition of a devotee's heart. Therefore, Lord Rishabdev also says to his sons, Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam brahma sokyam tvanantam. The Brahma sokyam tvanantam, the happiness of Brahman, is realized through tapo divyam, by austerities, and not just any austerity, but austerities for divyam, austerities for the divine, austerities for attaining the divine world. And that austerity reveals the spiritual abode of the Lord. So we may be feeling very confused how to make progress in spiritual life, how to become more Krishna conscious, how to accelerate our spiritual life. And here the answer is there, that we just have to perform more and more austerities for the Lord. In the purport, it's very interesting here. Prabhupada says, there's undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance in other processes of self-realization without any Vaikuntha realization ends in trouble only and nothing more. So we should not be afraid of performing austerities for Krishna. We should not lament if we have not slept enough, if we didn't get a good night's sleep, but rather we should only lament if we sleep too much. If we sleep less, that's good for us. It's better that we sleep less rather than sleep more. If we're sleep deprived, then that's very good. But we should not be sleep deprived for material things. We should be sleep deprived for the service of Krishna. And that is our goal, our destination. That is the thing. And we see that the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who saw Srila Prabhupada, who actually worked with Srila Prabhupada, they very much emulate Prabhupada's life. They very much repeat his life. And you will see, if you look at them very carefully, they don't rest. They don't take rest. They are performing great austerities for the Lord. They take rest, but no extra rest. There's no like rest. There's just what you need just to keep the body and soul together. And that is very mystical. You wonder, how is this possible? How is it possible that they act in this way? They act in this way because of their unflinching, spontaneous love for Krishna. We know that Srila Prabhupada was sleeping only 2 hours every night, only 2 hours every night. And in the day, he would take a nap, and that was it. And we think, well, that's because he's a Satyavesh avatar. There's no way we can imitate this. There's no way we should, work towards this. But when I was traveling with His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj over the years, he is also sleeping maximum 3 to 4 hours a day. And one time he was saying that he saw Prabhupada sleeping so less. And by seeing him, he said when he saw Prabhupada sleep so less, and he said that he knew because Prabhupada was sleeping so less, it was possible to sleep less. And therefore, my Guru Maharaj, he was determined to sleep less. And therefore he sleeps less. Because he said, well, Prabhupada did it. So he was Acharya, he was teaching by example. So he, that means it's possible to be done. It's possible. Now, of course, we cannot imitate and do it overnight. But gradually, my Guru Maharaj made that possible for himself. And one thing that we observed, it was very amazing, is that, he sleeps so less. And then, if he gets into a flight, then the natural thing is when you're on the plane, then when the plane moves, you feel especially sleepy. Or when you're in a car, then you feel especially sleepy. And because the plane is moving and there's nothing else to do, you catch up on sleep. So those who are traveling with Maharaj, it was like getting on a flight was like the best sense enjoyment you could possibly get. The moment you get on the flight, you just sit back and and get, those 2 hours of sleep that you've been craving for. So one of Guru Maharaj's disciples got him a first-class ticket from Toronto to Vancouver. And these were one of those tickets. It was one of the very special one, unknown to Guru Maharaj. He just did this, and Maharaj didn't know this. This is one of those that fully reclines. So there's only one Air Canada flight that does that, and he booked Maharaj for that flight just so Maharaj could get some rest. It was a 5-hour flight, and a very long one, so Maharaj could do that. So he gets on the flight, and then his servant is next to him, and they're sitting there, and the servant thinks, this is my chance. Finally, Guru Maharaj will rest. I'm going to rest, and finally get some rest. And Maharaj gets on the plane, and he tells, turns over to a servant and says, I'm going to chant now. I'm going to chant for the next 4 hours while we're on the plane. He just says a matter of fact. And then he starts chanting. And for the rest of the flight, he's chanting. And the servant, he's supposed to be awake. If the guru is awake, then you have to be awake. The servant is just, trying to fight off his sleep. And finally, he's exasperated, blurts out, Guru Maharaj, what is wrong with resting? Why don't you rest a little bit? And what he doesn't say, what he means is so that I can also rest. And he tells him, I never rest on planes. You know that. I never rest on planes. So it's not just that they don't have time to rest. He could have easily rested, but they have a so to say, they have a animosity towards resting. They have they don't like to rest. And that is what Prabhupada's life was. He never rested. For 13 years, he was traveling around the world. He initiated tens of thousands of disciples. He established 108 temples. He translated over 80 volumes of books. He gave darshans to tens of thousands of people. He gave personal instructions to tens and thousands of devotees. And he personally dictated and wrote thousands of letters. How can a person do this in 13 years? Not possible. And he did this because his penance in devotional service was his pleasure. He was happy doing this. So that penance also is not a form of suffering or pain. It is the great happiness for a devotee. So that happiness becomes a happiness when we change our mindset. We have to change our mindset where we feel happy. I've noticed for myself, when I sleep less and then I'm conscious that I'm sleeping less and therefore I'm feeling miserable, then I feel more tired, then I feel more miserable. But if I sleep less and I'm happy that I slept less, then I'm less tired. So they're happy to be serving the Lord and sleeping only a few hours a day. Just like the Goswamis of Vrindavan. The Goswamis of Vrindavan were also sleeping a few hours a day. They are also eating very little every day. And that was their transcendental happiness. They were not doing some artificial form of penance. They're very happy to do that. And they're teaching us to work towards that. We cannot do that. It's impossible. We will spiritually fall down if we imitate the Goswamis or Srila Prabhupada. So we're not about imitation, but we're changing the mindset that if ever we get less sleep or if ever we sleep less, we're not disturbed by it because it's all in the transcendental service of the Lord. And we're constantly striving to perform more and more penances for the Lord, to please the Lord, because we know that this pleases the Lord, and so that the Lord reveals his transcendental abode, his transcendental spiritual abode to us. By seeing Lord Brahma's penance, it's described here that Lord Vishnu revealed his abode, his personal abode, Vaikuntha, so he could see the spiritual world by that. And the reason why I'm mentioning all these points is actually I'm preaching to myself. It's a good reminder. It's a very, I'm hoping that this will convince myself to be more austere. But that penance revealed the Vaikuntha planet, the supreme planet. Just like Lord Krishna revealed Golok Vrindavan to the Brajavasis, here he is revealing the spiritual world. And once you see the spiritual world, what more is there to see? What more is there to know or advance? The spiritual world is the ultimate destination. So that is our prayer, that we can follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and we can take up his mood of performing devotional service to the Lord with great intensity, with great happiness, with great enthusiasm. And in this way, only taking pleasure in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and pleasure in nothing else. Another thing that I remember just in this is that sometimes traveling with my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, there were sometimes such nice accommodations that were given to him. Like people for their guru, they will, make the best accommodation. So there'd be like these beautiful, rooms or places where they would arrange. Not always, but once in a while, like there's some disciple who has a mansion and he calls Maharaj, and Maharaj, to give association to his disciple, stays at their home, and they have this beautiful arrangement. And the thing was that such a beautiful arrangement was given, and such nice soft bed and nice comforters, but Maharaj would only sleep 3 or 4 hours. And then I realized that no matter what material comfort is there, there's no way to enjoy it. Because as we all know, when you're sleep deprived, the only thing that you can enjoy is sleep. It doesn't matter, you can sleep on the floor or you can sleep on the street, but you just want to sleep. And because he had given up sleep, there's no question of enjoying anything. There's like, if you sleep only 3-4 hours, then it doesn't matter if your bed is bed of feathers. When you wake up, you will be it'll be a lot of pain almost. So he would sleep at midnight or past midnight and wake up at 3:30 in the morning to go for Mangalarti. So there's no time, there's no scope of enjoying material things, material profit, material adoration, material comforts, because of the unflinching absorption in the Lord's service. So then one final thing here, and then we'll end here. Here, such a beautiful, Prabhupada's words are also always so poetic. And he's saying that executing bhakti yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. The devotional service is like sitting on the lotus that comes from the Lord. And there's one incident where Srila Prabhupada is sitting in the sun. He's sitting in his room and the sun is shining, through the windows. And this is the warm morning sun, and Prabhupada is sitting there getting his massage. His body is glowing. He had this golden form, and with being massaged is glowing even more. Then with the sun, it's a very warm atmosphere. And Prabhupada turns over to his disciple who's massaging him, and he tells him that you are thinking that we are sitting in the sun, but I am actually sitting in the palm of the Lord. This the sunshine that I'm sitting in is the palm of the Lord. So the one who is engaged in devotional service, the one who is engaged in bhakti yoga, in performing penances in bhakti yoga, in tivrena bhakti yogena, that person is sitting on the palm of the Lord. That person is sitting on the lotus of the Lord. They have all the blessings of the Lord. So this is a new form of enjoyment, of seeing the Lord act in our life in a very blessed way. When we give our life to Krishna, then Krishna acts in our life. He personally protects the devotee. And devotees have this realization, and Krishna actually puts them through difficulties so they get the realization of the protection of the Lord, that how they were in great difficulty, but somehow the Lord was all around them, protecting them. That Krishna is just, protecting them. And it's so true. I was just in New Vrindavan, and Anuttama Prabhu was there, and Anuttama Prabhu was our GBC here, and so all of you know him very well. And he came in a little late. He was just coming from BC to New Vrindavan, and he arrived there during a little after lunch had started, and it was Ekadashi day. So he was arriving there before lunch, but then he came late, and the temple prasad was already being served. And devotees didn't know exactly what time he was arriving because he was driving. He was coming there by car. And so he arrives there, and he is walking towards where the prasad is, and devotees were sitting there eating, and he noticed the paneer sabji, and he stops, and he greets the devotees, and that always takes time when you're GBC. And he comments on how nice the paneer sabji looks. And I know he likes paneer a lot. It's just like, it's always, he mentioned that. And so then he goes to the counter, and guess what? All the paneer sabji is gone. The only thing that's left is this quinoa. So he sits with a little bit of quinoa, and he's genuinely, even pure devotees, they like to eat Krishna Prasad. They have a taste, they enjoy Krishna Prasad, and there's certain things they like and they don't like. It's just part of the process of bhakti. Prasad is part of it. And so he sits on the table, and he's, comments again, I missed that paneer sabji. That's what I really wanted. He didn't actually want anything else. He just wanted the paneer. So then a few of us go out looking for paneer, but all the paneer is finished. It's just gone. There's nothing in the fridge. There's nothing in the kitchen in the back. There's nothing, everything is finished because paneer is paneer, right? And then so it's just like feeling very bad. We were just like, he's just eating this little quinoa, and he wanted the paneer, didn't get it. And then he goes back once he's all finished, and he talks to the devotees, and he goes back to the main serving place. And in that container, there was paneer, and there's just enough for one person, like a good quantity, but enough for one person. And no one knows who put that paneer in that vessel. And sure enough, he scoops it up, he takes it, and he comes back with this. And we're thinking, where did this paneer come from? It was like Draupadi's pot. The paneer just appeared. So again and again, we have this experience with so many times with different devotees, that how Krishna personally reciprocates with them. And when they have a desire, it has to be fulfilled. Why? Because they're sitting on the lotus that sprouted from the abdomen of the Lord. And this was completely true of Srila Prabhupada's life. That Prabhupada was sitting on the lotus hand of the Lord, and whatever he wanted was fulfilled by the Lord. And specifically, it's mentioned at the end in Prabhupada's final pastimes that Prabhupada, initially tells the devotees, you pray to Krishna if you want me to stay. He's trying to increase their devotion for them. But then at the end, he tells them that my leaving is 100% under my control. I will leave when I want to leave. Krishna has left it up to me. So the desires of the devotees are always fulfilled by the Lord. If we have a desire and it's not being fulfilled, it's because we are not fully dedicated to the Lord. We must be convinced of that. There's no desire that will not be fulfilled if we're not pure devotees of the Lord, because Krishna has to fulfill that desire. Of course, there's the exchange between the devotee and the Lord, and that's rasa. But fundamentally speaking, the devotee Prabhupada said, the devotee is all-powerful. He said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said he's all-powerful. If he wants, he can liberate the entire world, but he left some service for us. In the same way that Lord knows the desire of the devotee knows the desire of the Lord, so he acts accordingly. But ultimately, whatever the devotee desires, Krishna fulfills. And Prabhupada told his disciples that whatever I want, Krishna will fulfill. Whenever I want to go, I will go then. This is part of his final pastimes. I was just reading it before the class. And another thing in terms of his final pastimes, yes, that the guru, the acharya sometimes externally appears to be weak, very sick, ill. They need help. The devotees were carrying Prabhupada in a palanquin. At the end, he was so weak he could not walk. Similarly, elderly disciples of Prabhupada now, like someone needs to hold their hand as they walk or walk next to them so they don't fall. So externally, they appear weak, but internally and actually, factually, they're more strong than any of us, than all of us combined, because their will is unstoppable. It is Krishna has to fulfill. And so therefore we should never think that a devotee is very weak. We should never think, oh, they're getting old now and frail and so they're a matter of our sympathy. No, that's not the case. The great devotees of the Lord, they are under the direct protection of the Lord, whatever they like. And we see this, the great devotees, any audience, any place they come amidst, all of a sudden it's just like they uplift that entire place. How is it possible? I mean, they're old, they're frail, they can hardly speak. Their voice is so soft, people can hardly hear them, but they have so much influence and so much power. How is that possible? Because the power is coming from Krishna. And that power is unlimited because that's Krishna's power. It's not that they have unlimited power. Their power is coming from Krishna, and Krishna's power is unlimited. So there's no stopping to it. So I'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada in this way is all powerful. If we pray to him, he is there. He's there always. And to this day, if we pray to him, he will give instructions to us directly through the heart, in dreams, through his books. When we sincerely read his books, he'll answer questions that we have through his books. He will manifest through his disciples and his devotees and his followers by speaking through them. He is when the spiritual master has a lot of disciples, then the spiritual master actually expands himself. Prabhupada said this, that the guru actually expands himself and manifests in different ways to different people. So they are given that power by the Lord. So if we want to feel Prabhupada's presence in our life, we have to make ourselves open to his presence. Prabhupada's presence is always there, and he's always wanting to connect with every devotee. We just have to make ourselves available to him. So I'll stop here, well over time. I apologize, but today is a festival day, so hopefully you will all forgive me. If there's any comments, corrections, please let me know. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Just want to appreciate how wonderful to hear from you this morning. And it's always amazing to hear about the glories of the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. And thank you so much. It's very heart-touching. Hare Krishna. Very, it's always an eye-opener, more and more, to hear the glories of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much.
Yes, but it's actually more blissful to glorify Prabhupada than to glorify the Lord. It's this way, isn't it? It's just like, yes. But I am only words. You are actually living as an ideal disciple. You're actually, pleasing your Guru Maharaj. So.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You are the disciple in full form. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Gopal Hari, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisance.
Yes, it is really very pleasing to the heart to hear you speak about Srila Prabhupada and your realizations. And
Mataji, your voice is trailing off, so it's difficult to hear.
yeah, I can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It has been. It was very pleasing to the heart to hear you speak about Srila Prabhupada on his disappearance day, as well as your own realizations with traveling with your Guru Maharaj and your observations in the way other devotees, how they conduct themselves in their lives, and the position of austerity, the austerity that that such devotees undertake, and all of that. It was very pleasing to the heart. Thank you so very much for your class.
Well, actually, Mataji, I didn't know that you were on the call on this class, but I was thinking of you actually, that how much austerities you are performing and have performed to preach Krishna consciousness here in Naperville. So I was actually thinking, that thought came to my mind when I was describing devotees who perform such austerity, that that you are such a devotee who's literally sacrificing everything for the service and preaching of the Lord here in Naperville, for your Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada.
But that is because of your humility and your understanding of the process of austerity. You are just saying, I mean, in the sense that when I think about that, I wouldn't consider myself to qualify for that. But the other day, the topic I was preparing for speech was the topic on austerity, and there Krishna was saying austerity performed for him is his heart, whereas austerity for other material benefits, it is like a dead body. In one of the verses that is coming up in this chapter, and yeah, but anyway, I guess the way wonderful devotees who are very dear to Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada or many of his disciples, they are performing at a different level of realization and consciousness, and the Lord's internal energy is manifested in their the way they conduct their lives and their sacrifices, but I guess they're just even understanding the meaning of what that is. Like when you are speaking, the more you speak about it, the more you hear about it, your understanding of what that is becomes more and more clearer, right? As we keep on hearing that topic, it becomes more and more clearer, and then you realize your own insignificant nothing. You are doing something, of course, austerity is needed, but the level of austerity or the consciousness of those self-realized souls is something which is to be aspired for, or to be admired, and to be appreciated. So somehow by their mercy, we will continue in our devotional life one way or other. But there is no comparison. I feel like there is absolutely no comparison. But in any case, I was very happy to hear you speak, and thank you so very, very much, because it, once again, every single time the same topic is being repeated, it somehow registers at a different level, and every single time you hear, and every time you hear about Srila Prabhupada, the feelings of gratitude to Srila Prabhupada and his representatives, it increases. And if that is not there in our life, there is no devotional life at all. Everything else that we do is just we do things.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, you actually brought a very nice point, that great devotees also they perform such great austerities to increase our gratitude also for them. Like, then we like so many Prabhupads, whoever saw him said that Prabhupada did more for us than we ever did for him. This is actually a quote from one, from the I think from the Hare Krishna film that was made, that Prabhupada did always far more for us than we ever did for him. And that's the amazing part, that how, like you were mentioning, how these great devotees can do that, because they're just one person, but everyone feels that they're doing more for me than I could ever do for him. And that's, I think, the power of bhakti, that that they have that that ability to do that. So thank you.
Just a quick something. I tried calling you yesterday. What is a good time to reach you today?
Oh, I didn't get your call, Mataji. I must have been in building or something. I can call you this morning, I'll call you after.
Morning kind of
Right.
won't work,
Okay.
but I will text you
Okay.
maybe later in the evening after, if it is possible. I don't know if it is possible.
Yes, this evening we have the Janavi's thing.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
So
I will
maybe
connect tomorrow.
no, or maybe like 3 o'clock, that would work if you are free around that time, or whenever is good. I'll try also.
Yeah, so just text me when you have
Okay.
the time. Thank
Yes.
you so much.